welcome back. Now we want to go straight to the Bomas of tension. Hey, sikiliumana huko.
Ulikuwa huko witness?
Yeah, I was a witnesser. Do you remember that guy? I was the witnesser. Yes. So, shows the tension and also the kind of politics that are likely to dominate in the implementation of this report. And let me show you what Murkomen and Junet were up to at the Bomas of Kenya.
I would like to invite Senator, Majority Leader of the Senate, Senator Kipchumba Murkomen. BBI. Shida ambayo iko kwa serikali ya Jubilee hiyo watatatua kando yao. Sisi hatuko ndani. Hiyo ni yao hiyo.
Even the way, Junet, you are running the program, we must make it a honest discussion. Your Excellency, it will be a lie for me to leave this stage without saying that this program has been skewed to leave other people who have different opinions to speak what they want to say. And so, whether Junet, I must say it. And so, Your Excellency.
Yes, speak he did, and he pointed exactly what he wanted to, and shows you the kind of tension they are in. In fact, if we had more time, we would have played the entire bite of what Murkomen was saying. That the program...
You have skewed it towards a particular place.
Yeah,
that sounds nice.
I heard some of the members of parliament were also there saying that it looked like a Kieleweke meeting.
But I think Murkomen had a point. As you've said, it looked like a Kieleweke meeting. Look at that lineup. Who came to speak, one after another? And they all seem to be those who are said to be skewed towards the Kieleweke group. And
but one of the people, I think, I think it was Paul Mwangi or someone, yes, who responded to that yesterday and was saying, if, I don't know whether it was him, but someone in those circles seemed to be saying that if you have spent your entire time since this BBI conversation started opposing the very process of the handshake and that produced BBI, and now the BBI people have set up their ceremony, why would you be given a chance to speak?
Actually,
That's
it was Junet at the very same venue saying that success has many fathers.
Yes,
that's
why the tensions but this goes to show, in my view, that because there wasn't anything to easily or to readily oppose in the document, the disagreements we saw and which we'll continue to see will be about things like that, like the process. How is this program running? It's not like I don't like the third proposal of the BBI report or something. We're going to see things like how do we implement this? Then the difference has already started emerging. Some people saying, hey, referendum, other people saying, no, let's take this through parliament. So we are not going to see so much in terms of a disagreement about the content of the document, but so much about these other side issues, which, in as far as things go, will be just as important, if not more so, as the content.
And I think we should listen to what was said today during the launch of the ODM headquarters.
ODM leader Raila Odinga was at the new Chungo House, and he repeated more explicitly what he said yesterday about the preferred process of implementing the BBI recommendations. And here is what Raila Odinga had to say.
I also say that this process must be people-owned. It will not be taken to Parliament. It will go to the people at the end. The people of Kenya are the ones who will decide what to do with that report. Okay? That's
this feeling that a referendum is more or less a dress rehearsal for the next big game, which is the 2022 race. So there will be a push for a referendum just to set things or align things as we head there.
First of all, I think this discussion is skewed against me because I wanted to comment on the tension at Bomas before we went to this referendum question. But you raise a very, very critical question. The thing is, this is politics at play. And you saw it, how it played out at Bomas, and how it's going to play going forward. And the politicians are coming alive. They like this because it takes them back to the platforms. It's back to competition stage. And you will see them very, very shortly doing that. The only problem with BBI is it hasn't provided sufficient grounds for differences. It hasn't given them a lot of things to differ on. If, for example, BBI had decided, oh, we're going to propose the removal of counties or reduce the number of seats in parliament, you know, positions would have taken shape yesterday. But now there's so much that the BBI team did, which is about playing safe. Have a document that doesn't generate a lot of
doesn't rock the boat.
Differences. But back to the tension at Bomas, it was very, very interesting to watch that play out. And my own take was, look, it was bound to happen. This is a political process between two sides that have been really at loggerheads over the handshake. Remember, it started with the handshake, and the handshake then took everybody to Bomas. Ideally, the other side would not have been there. But somehow the environment became friendly enough for that. Now, but going to the comments by, first of all, on how Junet was running the show. Junet, in my view, was not picked by accident. The organizers of the event were looking for a perfect irritant, somebody who can go under the skin of the political opponents.
That he is good at doing.
He's very good at doing that.
Good Georgia.
And if you look at how he brought in Murkomen to the stage, he poked him in a very sharp way, you know, saying that, you know, the problems in Jubilee can be discussed later. And, you know, that got Murkomen worked up. And he came to the podium, and that is not the Murkomen that we know. I thought he disappointed himself as leader of majority in the Senate. In such a big platform, you don't go, in Kimasai, there's that moment when people start foaming in the mouth and all that, because you've got this seizure that makes you a bit unreasonable. I see it in ceremonies, and I saw it in Bomas yesterday. Murkomen is solid. He's a solid person. And Joe, you remember when we first engaged Murkomen as a lecturer in when he was a lecturer at Moi University in 2010 about the Constitution.
He was a solid analyst.
Very solid analyst. Yeah. This is not the best. This is not the time to lose your head. He needed to take that podium, take that microphone, and steal the moment with solid arguments, not emotive. Because he got emotional, and then he started looking like and sounding like.
But didn't he say exactly what probably many people think he ought to have said, especially who are affiliated to the deputy president's
It is more about how he said it. I think that's something that he would probably have ended his statement with, you know, and put it in a way that would leave you thinking about inclusivity and whatever, you know, and when we talk about inclusivity, it should be reflected even in places like this. Then you go away and let people...
Don't get angry.
Don't get angry. But when you get angry, that's all we'll ever remember. The guy actually ended up saying some quite sober things after that.
Let me add, he wasn't very good at reading the room.
Yeah.
What crowd was that? What crowd was this?
Whose crowd was
Whose crowd was
Over
this?
5,000 of them.
He went on to state obvious facts. It wasn't a Tanga crowd. This is a Kileweke handshake crowd. Embrace was there. Everybody that had disagreed with them on this issue of handshake, this was their event.
They say the field
basically it was an away game for you, and why you wondering about the roar in the stadium? Because the booing was expected. Because that is the crowd that was not on his side. Speaking
about the reading the mood, we look at the body language, especially between the three leaders there, Uhuru, Raila, and Vice President and Deputy President William Ruto, and also about what the President and Raila spoke about the handshake. They started giving us a bit of information that most people didn't have about how the first time they met, about how they sat, I think, for 45 minutes with a cup of tea asking, Mama anaendeleaje? Mzuri. Watoto wakoje? Mzuri. And about how they met for about 19 hours, and that gave birth to the handshake and, of course, the BBI process and the laughter and the whisperings and all that. And to some extent, people may say, oh, maybe you're reading too much into this. The Deputy President came out a bit isolated, considering the fact that, yes, he was seated there, was part of the crowd there in the main dais, but these two looked to be sort of like closer, bosom buddies, laughing together, talking about each other, like they had a little secret that only the two of them know, that the third person doesn't know. And I think that was part of what was the mood in that meeting, that this was clearly we support BBI crowd that maybe Murkomen failed to see and pick up.
In fact, talking about the Deputy President, you also saw his projection of his voice projection when he was making his point. Very calm. Probably he read the mood better than Murkomen did. Yes. And let's hear what the Deputy President had to say at that event in relation to the BBI process and the aftermath.
That from here going into the future, we should avoid a costly, potentially divisive, controversial processes that will divide us. It is possible for us to build consensus and arrive at the destination together, not divided.
You see, what he's talking about is a process where everyone will agree on the what and the how. Is it possible?
I'm not too sure, because already we are disagreeing about all manner of things a day after BBI. But I think for the president, just speaking to what Jamila was saying, it was an uncomfortable day. I mean, and it should have been, because one, these two gentlemen are laughing their heads off. They're talking about how they met and the 45 minutes of of silence and that sort of thing, and that is not his story. You understand? So these two people have a common story, that they're almost like finishing sentences for each other, as they usually say. and he's there. I mean, he had to be there. He's the Deputy President. He would have looked terrible if he didn't go there. But he's in this situation where he can't have that story. He can't speak about having driven himself to a venue to talk about the handshake and that sort of thing. And he knows for a fact that this is not true. For the two guys, they are here more like couples who've got their first baby, and so there is this event and they're recounting how they met and that sort of thing. That was what the BBI report being launched there was for the two gentlemen who shook hands on the 9th of March last year. So there's a sense in which that was a source for discomfort for the Deputy President. But secondly, and more importantly, I think, the fact that he has been saying certain things out there which have not been necessarily complementary to the BBI process. So now he's here in front of the BBI crowd. He's together with the two gentlemen who are the real architects of the BBI process. What is he supposed to do? And therefore, I think he handled it well, I think, but you could see from his face and body language and everything that was not the best place he would have wanted to be. Yes.
No, the discomfort was clear, Francis, and I think going forward, we do not know whether the Deputy President will be reviewing his tack. In my view, it's been getting late and late for him to do that, because he appears to be the only one of the three that is still stuck in the 2017 election and probably with a mind in 2022 election. He is on election mode. The other two are not. The other two are trying, that's President Kenyatta and Raila, are trying to say, no, this is a bigger picture. It's not about us. It's not about elections. It's about the country. And here is a DP who is stuck with the 2017 election. Same characterizations. He sees Raila Odinga more as an opponent of President Kenyatta and not a colleague in the handshake. So I think we don't know whether the Deputy President is going to review that position, because it's somehow hurting him in terms of events like yesterday, because he really appeared very uncomfortable.
And I think, Gashuri and Linus, you pointed it out on Twitter, that there was an adult in Bomas. And I think we cannot finish the show before we talk about the Foreign Minister of Tanzania, one Palamagamba Kabudi, who gave us quite a talk down about how we relate to each other, especially in terms of ukabila. For me, I was just happy with the Kiswahili that was spoken. I think we need to listen to him.
Mwachane na maradhi ya siasa za kikabila. Maradhi hayo ya siasa za kikabila yamewapa madhila makubwa. Na madhila ya Kenya ni madhila ya Tanzania.
Right.
To a great extent. He only told us a good number of things that we know. It is a fact that ethnicity and tribalism in Kenya is a serious issue. Actually, every so often, many things will be looked at from that point of view.
Yes.
Even before you engage somebody, even before the content of your conversation is clear, what will seem very clear from the very onset is, where do you come from?
Yes.
Even when you say something, it will not be looked at in the context of what you're saying, but this guy is from this place, so he's likely to say this. And it becomes odd when you don't say things that are associated with people from your region, which ought not to be the case, because it's about content. And a few times that I've gone to Tanzania, I realize that they have more kabilas than we do, but you rarely hear them talk about kabila. But us, it's a very serious issue.
Na ukishasema you expect to have a particular political affiliation.
Umetoka. So it is not enough to tell people that my name is Francis.
Yes.
You'll ask, Francis who? So the moment you say who, then immediately you're classified, which I think is not the right thing to do. It's part of what we're talking about as national ethos. Look, even when you go to our institutions of higher learning, go to our universities, you will find Kiambu Students Association. And when they go for those meetings, they are more likely going to speak in Kikuyu. Right. You will hear Siaya University students, and they are likely going to speak in Luo, and so on and so forth. An institution of higher learning, even the selection of who becomes your roommate becomes an issue. Yet, these are places where things ought to happen differently. Right. It will take a bit of time for us to exit from that level and maybe match what Tanzania is, but it requires a lot of work and decision making and inward consciousness.
Jamila, it also takes leadership, because Tanzania is a country that was created through the thoughts of Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere. 20 years and a month ago today, I was lucky to be among journalists that went there for the burial of Julius Nyerere. And you know, you land in Musoma and then take a dust road to a place called Butiama, his home village. And you know, it's a very simple village. He came from people called the Wazanaki. Wazanaki is a small clan of the Kuria people in Tanzania, and the same Kurias with Kenya. Very small community. Look at that story. In Kenya, we ask about tribes because we are thinking numbers. How big is your community? If you come from a very small community, you have no chance of having a voice because you don't have numbers. But here is a small guy. And by the way, Julius Nyerere, in terms of physical attributes, was a small person. Very tiny, but powerful voice, very sharp mind. And he led Tanzania into a particular identity.
Is it the Ujamaa that led to this?
There was a bit of Ujamaa, which is caring for each other. But he came up with this thing called Undugu, which is every Tanzanian regards themselves as a brother. Then the universality of their culture through the language of Kiswahili. And you can see, look at their parliament when they speak. Look at the foreign affairs minister when he speaks. The values are in there. They don't have to change someday like we're going to try to do and write something. It's already in them.
Joe, your last thought before we finish?
Yes. I mean, the Tanzanian society was modeled on a foundation of ideology. And you can see that running through most of the things they do. You see their value system, their form of the way they address each other, you know, what the French call politesse. They are very, very polite in the way that they do. Even if someone is telling you something that's not very nice, they do it in a courteous way. Yes, and that is very important. When you look at the debates in the parliament, they are ideologically they're very rich. People talk about positions that they stand for because of one or the other reason. And so for us here in Kenya, for as long as the tribe is used as a serious tool of political mobilization, for as long as there seems to be a perception, real or imagined, that being a member of a tribe, a community, somehow bestows certain benefits on you or robs you of a possibility of doing this or achieving that other thing, so long will we continue to have the problem of negative ethnicity, which keeps drawing us back, especially during election time.
Finally, Gashuri, he spoke about how they have the Maasai in Kenya and they also have them in Tanzania, and he talked about different communities that are here there, and he used words like shari and shere and tabasamu and kikosi kazi, and he really spoke very well, and we all listened, and we all, it was in fact pin drop silence. Bomas, you were there when he was speaking, because he was telling us truths that we need to be saying, which are right before our very eyes. It's because those truths are rarely spoken about here. We know the reality, we know what happens, but we rarely speak about it. And I like the part where he asked Kenyans to hold hands and say some things. And you could see the excitement with which all the leaders who are at the Bomas of Kenya did. My only concern is I wish we could leave that feeling, that Bomas feeling, at that point when guys were holding hands. It would be a great thing for our country. The only challenge is, immediately our leaders left Bomas of Kenya after holding hands, after the nice Swahili and so on and so forth, restore to factory settings. But even as we listened to, I listened to the Foreign Affairs Minister, I got thinking that Kenya, were it not for these issues that we have, is a very rich country. And it was embarrassing for me to see the Foreign Affairs Minister lecture us at home on things that we know. Yet, in terms of democracy and advancement, I think we have made more progress than Tanzania has. I mean, in Tanzania, freedom of expression and freedom of the media is not as robust as is here. Agreed.
Uko, journalists are still being arrested and harassed thoroughly, and many other things, bad things are happening there. Not that Tanzania is all good, but there are some nice things that we can borrow from there. And it's not that our country is all bad. It's only that if we fixed a few things that ail us, would be a fantastic place.
And of course, twajivunia kwa Kenya. And with that, we need to end the show. And of course, it's time for our final words.